This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
More than 2.5 million honorable guests of the noble sanctuary are not afraid to perform the rituals of Hajj, and Riyadh is not neglecting its duty to protect them. The Saudi Arabian Minister of Interior, Prince Naif bin Abdulaziz, affirmed that the kingdom will not tolerate any practices deemed offensive to Hajj, and that it has taken all the measures to guarantee the security and peace of the pilgrims. Fahima Mazani has the report.
Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims dressed in white have been coming to the noble sanctuary for days. More than 2 million guests of God, including women, seniors, and youngsters, who vary in skin color and age, wearing the white garments of ihram, headed to the sacred house of God to request God's forgiveness and blessing. The worshippers are determined to perform this important pillar of Islam. The processions of the Hajj begin on Wednesday at sunset, when the pilgrims travel to Mina and spend the night there. On the 9th of Zulhijjah, they will travel to Mount Arafat and spend the night there. There, the pilgrims of the noble sanctuary will perform one of the grandest rites of Hajj. Then the pilgrims will begin heading in groups to Muzdalifah, where they will perform 2 prayers, Isha and Maghrib, collectively and individually. They spend the night there, then gather and prepare to perform the ritual of Rami al-Jamarat, or stoning the devils, including the Jamra of Aqaba, on the day of sacrifice, which marks the first day of the blessed Eid al-Adha. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia exerted a lot of effort to make the trip smooth for the pilgrims and to provide them with the best service. Extremely high security and health measures have been taken this season.
In the past Hajj seasons, the security forces proved their efficiency. And God willing, this year it will be the best Hajj season, despite the unnatural conditions surrounding us.
Riyadh took measures to face the 2 challenges of health and security. Perhaps the most important measure was recruiting the largest possible number of security guards and making sure that all the pilgrims have taken the H1N1 flu vaccine before their arrival to the Holy Land. These measures were preceded by warnings but did not stop the pilgrims from arriving to perform the 5th pillar and dedicate their prayers to God.
The second Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of the Interior of Saudi Arabia, Prince Naif bin Abdulaziz, reiterated that Houthi infiltrators in the southern part of the country may take advantage of the Hajj season to increase their activities at the border. BBC correspondent Mohammed Taha has more details on Saudi Arabia's security measures during Hajj, which is going on right now.
Saudi Arabia is showcasing its military capabilities before Hajj season, an occasion during which the kingdom does not usually exhibit all of its forces. According to political observers, the political and security situation, especially the fighting in the south, call for the parade. The BBC asked this question to the top Saudi security official.
As for those who want to infiltrate and disturb the security, measures will be taken to confront them and forbid them from assaulting a single inch of the kingdom's territory. We do not rule out the possibility that they have connections and coordinate their actions with each other.
الحج هو السبب المباشر وراء إقامة هذا العرض العسكري على تخوم.
The Hajj is the direct reason for holding this military parade at the entrance of Mount Arafat and the press conference following it. This year, about 63,000 security personnel and soldiers will participate in enforcing security measures during the Hajj season. More than 2,000 surveillance cameras will be installed and used in between the holy sanctuary and the streets surrounding it. Saudi security is prepared to confront various threats, both the usual challenges of infiltration, directing traffic, and catching crimes, and the unconventional challenges of floods, rains, and threats from some Iranians to organize demonstrations. The so-called demonstrations of innocence aim to have these Iranian groups vindicated from being called infidels or polytheists. This phenomenon causes security forces to cooperate with the kingdom. Incidents do not happen very often, but during the last several years, the Hajj has been through fire, flood, chaos, and some demonstrations. Because of all that, the kingdom has gathered all of its strengths and forces.
الحقيقة مررنا في المملكة يعني في السنوات الماضية بما يكفي يعني من المواقف.
Security incidents and situations that we have witnessed in the kingdom in the last several years meant that we cannot wait to get new information or receive threats from anyone. I think the lesson is very clear to us.
يعني أعتقد الدرس واضح بالنسبة لنا وبالتالي.
As a result, we truly do not want to miss the opportunity to be fully prepared in all aspects for the Hajj season.
The inclusion of the Air Force was one of the most prominent measures taken by Saudi Arabia to ensure its security. The security authority may also play a large role in case of health emergencies. Some military equipment that may have never been used in Hajj season before is being used this season, which may have led some to believe, more firmly, that Saudi Arabia is eager to send a message to some foreign elements. A few meters away from Arafat, these soldiers chant, "We are fully prepared." These forces will be deployed in a few days to facilitate the journey of the more than 3 million pilgrims. Their readiness will be put to the real test. From the headquarters of security near Arafat, Mohammed Taha, BBC.
Yemeni Houthi fighters say Saudi Arabia has launched a major ground and air attack along its southern border. The Houthis say the Saudis are using heavy weaponry, including tanks and jet fighters. They say Riyadh pounded villages northwest of Yemen throughout the night. The Houthis say they fought the Saudis and inflicted heavy damage on them. They claim some 50 armored vehicles and Hummers were destroyed in clashes. The Saudi offensive reportedly began following its failed incursion into Yemen. On Sunday, the Houthis say they thwarted an incursion by Saudi soldiers into Yemen's northern region. They accuse Riyadh of aiding the Yemeni army in its war in northern Sada province. Tens of thousands of people have been displaced since the war against the Houthis began in August.
A group of Iranian students have rallied outside the foreign ministry building in the capital Tehran to protest the killing of Shiites in Yemen. The protesters have demanded the foreign ministry take rapid action against the killing of innocent civilians in Yemen. The rally was also in protest at Saudi Arabia's involvement in the killings and its interference in Yemen's affairs. The protesters say Riyadh is trying to make division among Islamic governments. The Yemeni army started a major offensive against the Houthis in the country's north in August. There have been reports over the past few days that Saudi Arabia has been aiding the Yemeni army by dropping paratroopers and using phosphorus bombs in civilian areas.
Fresh violence in Afghanistan has claimed the lives of 4 more U.S. soldiers in the past 24 hours. According to the International Security Assistance Force ISAF, the soldiers died in an insurgent attack and 2 separate explosions. However, ISAF has not disclosed the location of the incidents. The latest deaths take to 481 the number of foreign troops killed in Afghanistan this year alone. 2009 has been the deadliest year for international forces in that country since the U.S.-led invasion in 2001.
The U.S. president is expected to meet his war cabinet Monday to discuss the water strategy in Afghanistan. The meeting comes as Barack Obama weighs a request from his top commander in Afghanistan for up to 40,000 more troops to support the war effort there. Among the top administration officials expected to attend the meeting are Vice President Joe Biden, Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. It will be the 9th meeting so far held by the Obama administration on the issue.
Newly leaked documents have revealed deep tensions between British and American commanders in Iraq. According to the documents published by the Daily Telegraph, UK officers found it hard to communicate with their US counterparts. The British Chief of Staff in Iraq even described the leading US officials as a group of Martians. Colonel J.K. Tanner said working with Americans was difficult as they imposed their own will as the only way. Also, a senior UK commander in Iraq, Major General Andrew Stewart, disclosed how he tried to refuse orders from his US superiors.
According to our Al Jazeera correspondent, Israeli prison authorities have gathered some Palestinian prisoners in 3 prisons, an indication that the prisoner swap deal between Hamas and Israel may be entering its final stage.
Our correspondent added that Israel will discuss during its weekly session next Sunday the approval of the prisoner swap deal with Hamas.
Meanwhile, Hamas sources have said that progress has been made in the talks for the release of the captured Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in exchange for the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners.
There have been growing indications that the final stage of the Gilad Shalit swap deal has started. Gilad Shalit is an Israeli soldier who was captured by armed Palestinian factions on June 25, 2006. Several Hamas sources confirm that progress has been made to reach a deal with Israel. Senior Hamas official Salal al-Bardawil said that a delegation for the movement is currently discussing the latest development and the prisoner swap deal with Egyptian mediators in Cairo. Al-Bardawil expressed hope that they will reach an agreement soon. Israeli President Shimon Peres issued a statement on Sunday after wrapping up a visit to Cairo, confirming that progress has been made in the negotiations to free the captured Israeli soldier. Incoming reports have confirmed that Israeli authorities have started to gather and move dozens of Palestinian prisoners to 3 prisons, an indication that the parties are close to reaching a deal. Germany, which has recently joined the mediation efforts, proposed a formula for the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. The delegations are still trying to reach a consensus over the classification of the prisoners and the fate of those serving life sentences. Cairo, along with Germany, is leading the mediation efforts between Hamas and Israel. The mediation efforts have frequently encountered obstacles on both sides. Hamas was able to finalize a prisoner swap with Israel at the beginning of last October. In the deal, 20 Palestinian female prisoners were released from Israeli prisons in exchange for the release of a videotape by Hamas showing that Shalit is alive and well. In the video, the Israeli soldier was seen reading a Palestinian newspaper that was published on September 14, 2009. After the release of the videotape, speculation about reaching a deal to free Shalit started to gain momentum.
In our top story, cautious optimism today amid reports from around the world of a possible breakthrough in the negotiations over the release of kidnapped IDF soldier Gilad Shalit. Hamas sources confirm that delegates from Damascus and the Gaza Strip headed to Cairo today in order to debate a new list of prisoners presented by Israel in exchange for Shalit. Sources in Hamas voiced hope that a deal would even be sealed by the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha, which begins this Friday. Israeli sources have yet to confirm the reports, as tight censorship has been imposed on all details of the negotiations. Earlier in the day, Shalit's family met with chief negotiator Haggai Hadass at the Kiryat military headquarters in Tel Aviv for a meeting which they said was previously scheduled. No information was disclosed upon their departure. IBA's Dennis Sin brings us the latest developments.
The buzz in the media continued and even intensified today concerning a breakthrough in the negotiations between Israel and the Hamas and the possible imminent release of kidnapped IDF soldier Gilad Shalit. Today's meeting between Shalit's parents, Noam and Aviva, and his brother Yoel with special negotiator Chagai Hadass was interpreted as further proof that the deal will go through. According to the Arab press this afternoon, the agreement now hinges on the name of just one prisoner. The military censor in Israel has slapped a tight gag order on all details of the ongoing talks, and the Hamas leaders are also keeping mum. Some Arab reports went as far as to say the prisoner release will take place on Friday to coincide with the Muslim festival of Al-Adha. Nevertheless, this optimism did not seem to have rubbed off on the Shalit family members. Following the meeting with Hadass, Noam Shalit said he heard nothing new. The Shalit family is well aware of the critical nature of the endgame in such a deal. Last March, in an atmosphere of similar optimism, the negotiations dissipated when the sides could not agree on the names of the Palestinian prisoners up for release. This afternoon, Shalit's parents traveled to the Knesset in Jerusalem, where they met several ministers. The cabinet will have to vote on whether or not to accept any agreement that may be reached with the Hamas. Tonight, Hamas delegations from Gaza and Damascus are scheduled to travel to Cairo to hear Israel's latest offer. Dennis Zinn, IBA News.
Israel announced that it has intensified its security measures aimed at protecting Palestinian schoolchildren in the city of Hebron from attacks by Jewish settlers. However, the Israeli B'Tselem Foundation for Human Rights released a video showing mass Jewish settlers stoning Palestinian schoolchildren in the city of Hebron. The video shows that the children came under attack while walking to school and did not get any protection from the Israeli army.
This long and rocky road is not the only challenge facing Palestinian school children in the West Bank city of Hebron. The children are facing a more serious threat. Every morning while walking to school, Palestinian school children come under attack by Israeli settlers who hurl rocks at them. These images showing the stoning of Palestinian children in Hebron, south of the West Bank, were captured by the Israeli B'Tselem Foundation for Human Rights. The video shows images of mass Israeli settlers hurling rocks at innocent Palestinian children who had nothing in their possession but school books and supplies. The stoning takes place at a nearby settlement overlooking the road leading to the school.
The settlers sometimes intercept us along the way to school and prevent us from crossing.
The
Israeli army sometimes intervenes and prevents the settlers from hurling rocks at the children. However, the army doesn't escort the children all the way to school. The suffering of these children is part of the daily suffering facing Palestinian residents in Hebron and across the West Bank. Palestinians are facing travel restrictions on a daily basis.
They're imposing travel restrictions on all Palestinian roads. They don't allow us to travel from one area to another. We have been suffering since 2000, and it seems that the suffering will continue to intensify.
The city of Hebron is considered to be one of the most tense areas in the West Bank. The city is home to nearly 170,000 Palestinians. Most of them are living under harsh conditions with no peace or security. Mia Al-Muhandes, Al-Arabiya.
The overwhelming majority of UN members demand the Israeli occupation to implement international resolutions pertaining to the occupied Syria and Golan Heights.
The occupation rejects this demand. The U.S., along with a few other countries, abstained from voting to protect Israel.
كعادتها واشنطن انفردت عكس اتجاه 165 دولة.
In contrast to the 165 countries, Washington has abstained from voting as it usually does.
عدد من الدول الجزرية الصغيرة.
The overwhelming majority of the UN members called on the occupation to abide by international resolutions pertaining to the occupied Golan Heights, especially UN Security Council Resolution 497, which considers the Israeli decision to impose its laws and procedures on the Golan null, according to international law. This demand was made when the UN Fourth Committee of the UN General Assembly voted on a draft resolution titled the Occupied Syrian Golan Heights. The resolution demands that the occupation cancels its decision to annex the Golan Heights immediately, considering the Israeli administrative and legislative procedures to change the Syrian Golan's identity as null, including the occupation's attempt to impose its national identity on the people of the Golan Heights. The Fourth Committee of the UN General Assembly also demanded its members not to recognize any of the measures that have been taken in the occupied Syrian Golan Heights because they represent a grave violation to international law. Most of the world demands that Israel stop its oppressive policies against the people of the Golan Heights, condemning its violations to international agreements, especially the Fourth Geneva Convention, which calls for the protection of civilians in times of war. The occupation burns farms in the Golan Heights, steals its artifacts, land and water, and oppresses its people.
We will always remain Arab, Syrian, and we will continue to live on this land forever.
On the eve of the start of Britain's inquiry into the Iraq War, its chairman has promised a full and frank account of events. The 5-member inquiry committee will start public hearings tomorrow. Its retired civil servant, Sir John Chilcot, said his team had complete access to government records. Chilcot has not yet said whether Prime Minister Gordon Brown would be among those called to testify.
Real question is getting to the core of the narrative. What happened? Why did it happen? Who were the people responsible for what happened or for coping with it and being accountable for it? That does require thoroughness. It requires deep acquaintance with the underlying body of facts and documentary evidence. After that, it's a matter of discovering what the key questions are and putting them and listening to the answers, which everybody will be able to do.
During meetings with the inquiry committee held before the formal hearings began, relatives of British soldiers killed during the conflict accused then Prime Minister Tony Blair of taking Britain into an illegal war and deceiving the public. A government dossier justifying military action before the war included the claim former leader Saddam Hussein was capable of launching weapons of mass destruction within 45 minutes. No such weapons were found, leading to accusations that Blair had distorted intelligence. The panel will start by hearings from senior officials and military officers who advised ministers or helped shape government policies and how those policies were communicated.
We have already seen an immense amount of documentary evidence, apart from expert seminars we've held in public and also meeting families of those who've lost family members. We will then have an array of official witnesses, senior people, military, diplomatic and other, as we build up to the main first sessions with the key politicians, including the former Prime Minister.
Iraqi Vice President Tariq al-Hashemi said that his meeting with the head of the Iranian Shura Council, Ali Larijani, was tense and uncomfortable. Al-Hashemi informed Larijani that Iran's illegitimate and unreasonable meddling in Iraq's internal affairs, particularly at the security and political levels, has led many Iraqis to lose faith in the prospect of normalization of relations between the two countries. The Iraqi Vice President further said that his country has official documents and evidence to support his claim against Tehran. However, Larijani has dismissed the Iraqi allegations. Larijani also called on al-Hashemi to issue a general pardon for the release of Iranian prisoners held in Iraq, and in return, Iran will free Iraqi prisoners held by Tehran.
من بينها التعديات التي تحصل على حقول النفط الحدودية.
I asked Mr. Larijani to explain Iran's policy towards many of the issues relating to Iraq. Among the issues are the shutdown of water for 42 Iraqi rivers, violations of common oil wells and regional water sources, reduction of the Shatt al-Arab waterway, the exportation of expired food products, and the smuggling of drugs to Iraq, in addition to a number of other complex issues. Larijani asked me to issue a general pardon for the release of Iranian detainees, including those who crossed illegally into Iraq or overstayed their visas. I told him that I will not approve the Prime Minister's pardon unless Iran agrees to release Iraqi prisoners held in Iranian jails.
Qalb al-Hadith, or The Center Stage, is the title of a dramatic play portraying the changes witnessed in the Iraqi state of affairs after 2003. The play premiered at the Iraqi National Theater. Aysar Jabbar has the details.
The theater is a place to portray the daily life of Iraqis and highlight the sequence of events unfolding in the Iraqi political spectrum. Qalb al-Hadath is a dramatic play premiering at the Iraqi National Theater. The play depicts the daily life of Iraqis in the aftermath of the 2003 incidents and the tragic events that have followed. Iraq has faced a systematic campaign of death, forced migration, and mayhem. Many of these incidents are still fresh in Iraqis' collective memory.
I hope the Iraqi people will get the message. I want to add one more thing. It's time to stop the killing. Enough death. We as Iraqi people had more than our share of death. We hope that this comes to an end. We want to live in peace.
It's a superb performance. It's an unprecedented performance with a special twist. Everything about the play is innovative. This includes the scenes, the characters, and the delivery. It's more than setting up a screen and showing events. The show is different from all angles. It's a beautiful real-life drama.
The play also exemplified the role of the Iraqi woman and highlighted her ordeal in life. In contrast, the play blamed Iraqi officials for failing to bring the Iraqi security situation under control. The story was told by actors who tried to deliver a real-life message in a creative and brilliant way.
We're sending this message to the entire Iraqi society. The message is enough death and enough explosions. We tell the suicide bombers who are roaming free in Iraq, enough killing. It's taboo to kill people, many of whom are women and children. We want to live a happy and peaceful life.
Based on the congratulatory comments we've received, I think the message was well received. I hope that every Iraqi citizen shares this opinion. The Iraqi people have suffered tremendously due to the consecutive wars. I'm very happy because the play was a success.
The Qalb al-Hadath is the second play to be directed by filmmaker Muhannad Hadi. His first play was Hadar Tajawul, or The Curfew. The director helped bring the dark comedy genre back to the Iraqi theater, relying on improvisation and actual footage from the streets of Iraq. Aysar Jabbar, Alsumaria.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.